This is welcome to the next edition of Gardener's Guide. Today I want to explain how to make soil mixes for different types of containers. Each one, whatever you're growing, needs different types of characteristics that it has to have to grow. You're going to need a specific type of drainage, and you're going to need a certain amount of water that is held in the soil. But how do you know how much to use, or what mix to use to grow a house plant or a big potted plant outside? So this here little demo is going to kind of show you how to find out and make your own soil mixes. So what I've done is I have some regular potting soil like from a store. I have some peat moss. I have some sand. I have some germination mix, which is basically just very fine peat moss and a little perlite. And then I have a little bit of some garden soil. And what I've done with each one, I've used a little cup here to measure the exact same amount of soil. So what I've done is taken each one and put it into a container. So I have each one of them all with the same amount of mixture. And so what then I'm going to do then is I'm going to take some water, a cup of water, and I'm going to pour some water onto each one. And as we do that, it's going to saturate the soil mix, hopefully on each one, but then you're going to see how much water is going to come out. So I have 2 of them of each one. Normally when I've done this, say in a horticultural group, as to do a test, you can use 3, 4, 5 different containers all with the same different mix in them. So now I'm going to do the peat moss here. Now peat moss will hold 10,000 times its weight in water. So it's going to absorb a tremendous amount of water, but it also dries out very fast, the temperatures. Now sand, I had to slightly moisten it a little bit, just because otherwise it would run right out of the container. So it probably will here, just to showing the porosity of sand. And what happens when you put sand into a mix, if you have too much sand, it just runs, the water will run directly out of it. And so you can see there, just about pretty much the whole container of sand is going to go right down into the other cup, which showing there's about 0 water holding capacity, and there's the drainage is real fast, the porosity in it. So here is a germination mix, which is similar to the peat moss, except for it's going to have some perlite in it. This is what most places will use when they're in greenhouse production and other stuff to germinate seedlings before they put them into pots. And I have 2 of each one here for this demo. And the purpose I have 2 of each one, because now each cup, after the water drains out, you let them set for a while and see how much drainage you got. Now this here is just some soil out of my garden, so there's a fair amount of dirt in it. Maybe it's a little bit of the compost over the last couple of years, not a lot. So it's a little bit more clay type stuff in it, so the drainage ain't going to be quite as good. So you can see what is going to happen if you have a potted plant, how much water has run out of the plant when you're growing it. So if you want to know how long that pot you have is going to hold soil and how often you have to water it, you need to know how long the soil mix you have has held water. So what we then do, now after each one of these has drained down and I get the full amount out, what I'm going to do is take a marker, and then I'm going to mark the container. As you can see here, a lot of them have a similar amount of water. So what I'm going to do is I'll come over here like this where the water level is, and I'm going to draw a line right here where the water level is. So here's the water level down here on the peat moss. Up here, well, it's way up here on the sand. See how much of it came right out. So when you come over here to the germination mix, you can see we got a level about here. And then over here on the garden soil mix, it's down about here. So now, what I can do is come back in, like, you can pick the amount of days you want, 1, 2 days, and then you come out and you'll have your soil mix, and you add another measured cup of water into the same container. And then you see how much the water level is inside of this cup. So later I can take these, now that I have what the level is, and I can dump the water out. Okay? And then what I'm going to do though, when I pour it into the next time, after I do it, if say in 3 days, if I have the level on here, when I have to, after I re-water it with another cup and it's half of this here, it shows that it held this much water for 3 days. If it takes all the water, runs out of it again, and it's right up where it was, then you know that it only held that cup of water for 2 days or 3 days. If you test it after 5 days, and then wait, let them all dry out, and then see how much moisture it held for the 5 days, then you're going to know whether or not you can have to re-water that pot in 2 days, 3, 4, or 5 days. So what we'll do, after these have set for a day or two, I'm going to remark them and show some examples of what happened. So we'll see you again in a few days. Thanks for joining us here in the Gardener's Guide.